Great. Welcome to the April 15th meeting of the San Juan County Charter Review Commission's Governance Subcommittee. Let's take a quick roll. Dick Grout.
Here.
Janet Brunell.
Absent. Just kidding, I'm here.
David Dellendorf.
Here, but not all there.
Olivia Roseberry.
Here and kind of here.
Here. And I'm here, Dave Anderson. We have some wonderful minutes filed by Commissioner Dellendorf. Have we read them? And is there a motion to approve them?
I move that we approve the minutes from the
Okay.
April
Okay.
1st meeting.
Okay. So do we vote to approve? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Well,
Can I comment on the minutes tonight? Because Janet was going to do the minutes last week in my absence, but we didn't have a meeting. So I don't know if.
So can I
Janet
just
wants
say
to
when I read
wanted to.
when I read the minute, oh, Tony is here.
Tony's here.
We thought you weren't going to be here, Tony. Tony's not connected. Can you hear us, Tony?
Yes, I can.
Okay. When I read the minutes and I read that I was taking notes, I had a heart attack because I thought I did not take notes last week. And then I finally remembered we didn't have a meeting last week. So I felt so much better because I was like, oh my God, I didn't take notes.
That was probably why you didn't take notes.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you argued not to hold the meeting.
Is it?
I will take the notes. Janet, you're off the hook. I'll
Great.
take the notes tonight.
Great.
So with Tony here, who's not here?
Everybody, Kevin and Jane
Kevin,
are here.
They just signed in.
Yeah, they signed in. So we will go ahead and add them to attending meeting, and we're all here tonight. Thank you for coming, everybody. I know it takes an effort, especially.
I
on
know
beautiful
it's, yeah, I'm sorry for, I'm just grateful for your indulgence. Thursday night is a very tough night for me to meet, but I'm gonna make it happen once in a while.
Good. Yeah, thank you for doing that. Jane, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, and I'm not muted. I'm just grabbing some dinner, so I apologize.
So is
not
Olivia.
gonna-
So
Yeah.
you guys are both blocked out from your eating
Good.
Okay.
issues. So yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
I'm here. Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
And thank you for that.
Thank you for joining us. So
Well, I was saying thank you for being blocked out while you eat, as opposed to ramming food in your mouth and thinking that you can talk. With
I like Olivia's thumbs up.
well, Tony mentioned to me that he was probably not going to come, and so I put the discussion of his amendments. I put it on the agenda, but I was assuming he wouldn't be here, so I didn't put it first on the agenda. But I did send out the amendments to us so we could look at them, and but I had on the third part of the agenda was the continuation of our discussions of board commissions and committees and the Visitors Bureau. And I think where we're at is probably a good time to, I was thinking we'd talk about the Visitors Bureau tonight, but would we rather talk about Tony's amendments instead, or would we rather hold off on that?
Mr. Chair, I say you should just make a choice and tell us what direction to go.
Okay. Well,
Olivia, your hand up.
yeah, Olivia.
Tony, are you able to make next week's meeting? Because I know that Thursdays are difficult for you. Because if you're not able to meet next week, then maybe it would be a good opportunity to present. You're on mute.
Yeah, you're mute, Tony.
You're muted.
That must be the phrase of 2021. You're muted. I am not going to be able to make next week. Next week is the day that I cannot for sure not make.
So let's go ahead and look at your amendments.
I'm open to whatever you want to do. I'm just really grateful that you're being flexible. I really apologize. I just don't know how much I can tell you.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do this and go through these. We've talked about them a little bit, and because I think that they are fairly large and important if we do decide to go forward with them. And we've been holding off on them for a while. And so if that's okay with everybody, let's do that. I think that's what we really need to do. And let's see.
So Tony, do you have them on your computer that you could share them on the screen? I have them. I was just wondering, it'd be great if we could.
Yeah, hold on. I can probably do that. Hold on.
Yeah, Dave put them all with his,
If you just go to his email
yeah,
and share
with
his
his
email.
message. They're all, I mean, we all have them.
I don't have them in front of me. I could find them.
Oh,
Sorry.
I've got them at the ready if you want me to share my screen.
There you go. Why don't you do, yeah.
Do.
Yeah,
Which
go ahead.
one would you like me to start with?
2.31.
what
0.31.
about 3.0?
2.31.
I've got them.
What was 3.0? Can you put up 3.0 as well, if you don't mind? Can you do 3.0 first?
That was the may ask the voters to levy taxes appropriate.
I-
It was-
Yeah, I kind of put that aside because I think you all convinced me that levy is one of those things, especially since the top part of that was that we have to follow Washington state laws. So I think that I'm going to drop that out of there if that's okay with you all.
Right.
2.30 is not an event anymore.
Right.
That was
That's-
going to be my argument to you anyway, Tony.
Yeah, so let's go to 231. Okay. Just a little preamble, if it's okay with you all, just a preamble. It seems to me that in our county, the county council has not only legislative powers, but they also have executive powers. And since we already determined that in our different meetings or other ways of determining that, it seems to me that items A and B are really not necessary. Because if you have those kind of powers, you, by definition, are going to delegate executive duties and manage, and you are not managing all administrative offices because the manager is managing those offices. So it seemed to me that A and B might not be necessary anymore. So I decided that maybe A and B should be removed and then renumber the balance to be A, B, and C, and then F, remove that. Because if you are the council, you're telling the executive director or the county manager that you're in charge. So all of a sudden that person is in charge. Why would the executive powers of the county council also include those kind of things? Because that's already understood. Yes, Kevin.
Technically, under the law, they are still delegating their functions to a manager, department head, so on. And so I believe, and I was not on the Charter Review Commission last time, but that's when this language was developed. But my understanding of it was that it was to address the fact that under the law, they manage all administrative offices and functions. And then they also, delegate their executive duties to subordinate officers. So I hear what you're saying, that because they're the executive branch and the legislative branch, we don't necessarily need to delineate this because it's kind of an obvious, or it's already in the underlying position.
Right.
However, I believe that outlining it like this kind of makes sense to me.
So you think that it is okay to kind of be repetitive, even though we all know that the council has executive powers. Why even have extra words in the charter? So you think it's okay?
Dick?
I think, yeah, I think it makes sense to leave it, Tony. I agree with Kevin. The one thing we could change is to say, manage all administrative offices and functions not delegated to subordinate officers. Just as a clarification.
I'm all for that, because it looks in the charter, it looks like the road department and the manager are really the only things that the council has decided to put on their list. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm open to any suggestion. I just don't like it to be too wordy. This 2.31 has a lot of stuff in it that is kind of understood, but I mean, I take the point that Kevin made.
I think it's better to state it than to have it be understood, because people's understandings can wind up being different.
Okay, David and then Jane.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin and Dick. I mean, the optics of this thing, remember, if somebody goes to the ballot and looks at this and sees, oh, they're removing this delegation, they're removing this management. What's behind that? I don't know if we're going to have an explanation for each of these little, these are kind of nits to me. If there's going to be in the ballot an explanation of each and every one of them, but to me, the optics are going to be, people are going to say, well, why are they removing that stuff? What's changing in the way our government is managed? When in fact, there's nothing really changing. If indeed we're doing it just solely to simplify and remove redundancies. The other thing is, I think it's a little confusing about, and it comes out, I think, in some of your other sections where you propose amendments, Tony, about who is really on the hook for the government of this county. Who is responsible? Who is the ultimate authority? Who has liability when things go wrong? Who has accountability? And I think it's a little bit confusing to me, even with the old wording, that it has to be clear somewhere that it is the county council that is responsible. They are accountable. They delegate things, but they are not off the hook. They are. So maybe that comes into discussion later on with another section that you proposed. But as regard to this one, I think it should remain the same.
And I would take back my suggested modification to B, because if you go down to F, it says assign duties to administrative officers which are not specifically assigned. I think it's covered. I mean, my feeling is I would leave this section exactly the way it is.
Okay, Jane and then Janet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did take a look at all of these proposed revisions that Tony put forward a couple of weeks back now, and I was scrambling around and I found my printouts of them and all the rest of it. I have a bit more of a fundamental question, and that is, I think we need to be mindful of the existence of the language that is currently in the charter and how it was established in the first place and deliberated upon, et cetera, and be informed by the purpose and meaning of that language that was put in the charter before we start making proposed amendments. I'm not at all in favor of starting to delete things and the rest of it without getting some opinion on the purpose of it being there in the first place, for reasons very similar to what Kevin and Dick and David have spoken about. So that's my comment on this one. It will be a similar comment on subsequent proposed amendments that Tony's putting forward. There is a profound reason for legal verbiage, the likes of which many of us actually don't fully understand, including myself. And so I think we need to be very mindful of changing verbiage that already exists, and repetition has a critical purpose from my layperson's understanding of legal language. So that's my 2 cents on this. Thank you.
Janet?
I agree with Jane. I mean, that is one of the things I was talking about. I'm not sure you were on, Tony. It was just about getting Randy to vet this and give some opinion about why legally these things were kind of placed in here in the first place before we start changing them. But to David's point, in terms of the county council being the ultimate authority, I mean, I wouldn't change A through D in any of this, but you could say something in just the definition of executive powers and duties. That county council is the, I don't want to say ultimate power, but is the decider of whatever, blah, blah, blah. I mean, whatever you were saying, David, in terms of, the buck stops here verbiage, and shall exercise this executive power by adoption. I mean, clarified. And if you're going to have a clarifying sentence, it would be in the definition of executive powers and duties in section 2, not the minutia below it. But I don't even know if that's necessary. But I do agree that maybe getting to Jane's point, these are legal constructs that we're looking at here, and the wording was created over several charter reviews, and maybe there was a reason that it was worded this way that we just don't know about.
Dick, and then Kevin,
No, Kevin was first, are you saying?
and then Kevin.
Okay. The other thing that occurs to me we should think about is, if you look at the list of what all the things the subcommittees are working on, there's some big items, and 3 or 4 of them are probably going to get approved by the whole commission. And I think it's probably in our interest not to put forward a bunch of minor things that really aren't critical, because my feeling is the more items we put on the ballot, the greater likelihood the voters will just vote no, because they'll say it's too much. I don't want to think about all that stuff. So I'm inclined to only make changes if we think we really need to, and focus on the ones that really matter.
Okay. Kevin, and then David.
Yeah, 2 points. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Janet, to your point, so if you read the charter as a whole, if you go through the entire document, it goes together in several different places, and this was done deliberately. It is important to be prescriptive in the charter, and that's why this language is in there. And yes, in some places it's repetitive, which I think is what Tony immediately latched on to appropriately, is to say, hey, do you really need to say this? I would actually argue that you kind of do need to say it. You need to be as prescriptive as possible. And this actually complements other areas of the charter. And so for those reasons, and the reason that Dick just laid out, I think we don't make any edits to section 2.31, except for to go back to subsection C and retype C with the parentheses around it, and not hit return, which turns it into a copyright logo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think that should be the only amendment we have to the entire charter. It's just.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
David, please.
Yeah, I would be, I agree with everybody, unfortunately not with Tony, but removing,
Love you too.
redundancy is one thing, but contradictory provisions is another thing. And I think Tony had a good point very early on about how these different sections seem to be a little bit confusing, because they say one thing one place and maybe a different thing another place. I'm not sure I know exactly where that is right now, because I didn't look at this for a couple of weeks until tonight. But having said that, I'm in favor of just leaving it as is. But I have a question for Kevin. When we put together whatever we're going to put out to the voters, are they going to be voting on each individual item that we propose, yay or nay? Or are they going to be voting on the entire package of proposed changes, yay or nay? I think I know the answer, but I just want to make sure. Would you clarify that?
Kevin, and then Tony.
Tony can go first.
Okay. Tony, please.
Well, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not trying to sidestep that particular question, but let me just say that the reason I'm looking at all of this is, to me, I think of myself as pretty savvy and well educated, and it looked to me like it was a lot of confusion in the relationship between the county council and the county manager. So I kind of zeroed in and focused on certain parts of the charter where those conflicts and ambiguities. Now, at the end of the day, they might not mean anything to anybody because the charter is what it is, and the county council can set the working uh, the job description for the county manager, and then everybody's happy. But I think in my view, the charter should actually reflect current operating procedure. Otherwise, why have it when it comes to the relation of the county council and the county manager? So that's what I was focusing on. Yes, I agree. I don't want us to be into the minutia of correcting language, but I was also considering that why would we have things that are obviously are not realistic or contradictory to what the manager is supposed to be doing. So that's where I came from on all of this. But I do hear you what you're saying about 231. I get that, and I'm willing to move forward if you're all okay with it.
Okay. Dick, then Jane.
Wait, I asked a question of Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Excuse me. Kevin.
David, could you repeat the question quickly? I just want to make sure.
Okay, is there going to be one item with multiple amendments? One proposal, one whatever it is called, with multiple amendments, and voters vote yay or nay on the whole package? Or are there going to be individual amendments and they vote yay or nay on each individual amendment?
So it depends on the question. And I actually, this is one of the clarifications I have for Randy as well. But what I do know is that distinct questions will be a separate ballot measure. So for instance, the discussion of a climate commissioner and would be a separate question. The creation of a equity and justice oversight commission would be a separate question. The minutia in the charter, I believe, can be consolidated. I don't believe that each individual line item change needs to be a separate question. That's in the past when there were several changes to make it back to the charter we have today. So 10 years ago, a lot of these were consolidated. So my understanding is that the sort of stuff we're talking about right now would all kind of be under one question, like here's the changes. And then the bigger issues of, do you want to create a new department? Do you want to create an oversight committee? Would be separate questions on the ballot. That said, that is one of the specific clarifications for Randy that I'm going back with, exactly that question, because I want to make sure that, to Dick's point, we don't want to come up with 52 different questions on a ballot. We're going to blow people's minds and they'll give up.
Okay. Dick, did you put your hand down?
I put my hand down given what Tony just said about moving on, because my point's irrelevant if we're going to do that.
Okay. Jane, comment?
Yeah, just that I think putting some of these suggested changes through Randy is a good idea if we decide to look at any of these proposed amendments, putting them through that lens. The other thing I was going to suggest, because I appreciate what Tony's saying about redundancies or conflicting, seemingly conflicting statements within different sections of the charter. Not to give Tony homework, but I mean, I think that if Tony is recognizing that, given the different committees he's been participating on, and given the very eagle eye he is wonderfully giving to the charter and the very through the lens of what we're deliberating, perhaps Tony, you want to come up with some of the areas where you think there are some conflicting articles and clauses, or within the sections, and present those for consideration by our lawyer. Because I take your point. I really take your point. Yeah.
Thank you. I will. I think it's good time, Mr. Chair, to move forward to the next one, if it's okay with you.
Okay. So
241, please.
Okay, 241. So for this, we shall drop it and not take action for now. Is that where
Right.
we're?
Right.
Okay.
I would say just drop it because I understand what you're all saying. And again, I'm not attached to a lot of this stuff. All I want to do is say that let's clean up some of the stuff because it's a good opportunity for us to do so. But let's go to 241.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This one is going to be quick.
I don't, what's the
That's gonna
inference
be
there?
that's really quick.
Oh, we already talked, didn't we already talk about this extensively? I think, isn't that what you mean, Tony?
Yes, I want to say that this one basically is really a kind of a moot point now because I think if we say that they can meet at least twice monthly, they're meeting at least that, if not more. And we are other parts of the charter talks about how the council is in charge of their own meeting and they're in charge of how to.
Can we pull it up? Because I'm not seeing anything. Are you guys seeing something?
No.
I'm not
Yeah.
seeing it.
I would like to see the piece because this is one I actually have a question on. Or
Trying to pull it up. My computer is glitching out pretty seriously.
There we go.
Okay,
sorry, I can't find the email anyway that has it, so I'm only looking at the screen.
it's on the
here.
screen now. If you look at the last phrase, it says open sessions regularly at least twice monthly. I think the point here is that we cannot say that the council can meet anything more than that, especially when other sections we're telling the council that you are in charge of your meeting and you're in charge of your business. So I think this was really we should leave it the way it is and let the council hear from us as a public, not necessarily as a charter, but as a public would like you to meet more often. And I think we should leave it the way it is.
Kevin?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm just like,
I didn't
Go,
see
speak.
it.
So I actually disagree. I am concerned that the council is only meeting twice a month. And they claim they're meeting on a Monday, Tuesday, and that as if that's something new. We did that 15 years ago when I was a county council person. I am concerned that the county council is only meeting every other week. And if you look at their calendar, their scheduled meetings, they're meeting part-time on Mondays, and then they have their session on Tuesdays. And so I actually think that this is something we should take a look at. Because they're being paid now, I think it's $90,000 a year. Their salary went up last year. So they're getting full-time wages. And the only time where there's public meetings are when they're scheduled public meetings. And it's not to say that there aren't a ton of meetings on the side and that they're not working full-time, but their only scheduled meetings are not every week, which I think is not acceptable.
so I would argue that
Yeah.
because they're doing so many, I mean, they're on so many committees, all these, commissions, committees, boards that they are serving part of, they're going to cut back on that time, which is not regulated in the charter, in order to, if we do that, to make it happen. And I just think
That's,
I
I did it when I was there. I was very active.
I don't think
13 boards.
we should equate their salary
Yeah.
to how many times they're meeting. I mean, it's just like, fine, what if they were making $45,000? Then are they going to make, one meeting a week is acceptable? Again, hamstringing a county council and mandate for the next 10 years that they do this. That's going to be that's a huge change. And Tony wants to speak.
Tony and then Dick.
Okay, Kevin, I respectfully disagree with you because if you look at this, then you look at section 2.4, item 2, it talks about the county council shall be responsible for its own organization, the rules of conduct of its business, and for the blah, blah, and so on. If you change some of those things, then you got to change other sections of the charter. So you cannot tell the council that you are in charge of your business and then say you have to meet at least whatever amounts of time a month. And I do agree with Janet. When you start putting restrictions on them, they have ways to say, well, okay, fine, we're not going to meet with other events. We will meet in the council, and because the charter says so, but we don't have time to meet with other things. So that's a slippery slope.
Dick?
Yeah, I have to disagree as well, because I just think that, what are we going to do? Tell them you have to meet even if there's really no business to discuss? I haven't heard complaints, maybe you have, Kevin, from anyone that things are not getting dealt with in a timely fashion. If we were hearing a lot of that, I would have a different view.
I have a question. Do we know if this was changed at all when the commission or the council was changed from 6 to 3?
It was not changed then. It was changed, however, to at least twice a week last time around, the last time in the charter. And Tony, to your point, you do not have to change the other piece. The other section is speaking about how they organize themselves. This is just simply requiring the meetings. I can see where this is going though, so I will drop it after I make this last point, which is, Dick, to your point that you just made, and actually other points. So I'll tell you the problem. We had a problem when our own Charter Review Commission 1 month ago was trying to get before the council for some important matters. And we were told we're not meeting for another 2 weeks because it's not scheduled. So come back in a month. And I've heard from other people that has happened on different topics. And so I'll tell you what, just having been there, and Janet, to your point, I served on 13 boards and commissions, state, federal, and county, while I was a county commissioner, as part of being a county commissioner. And we met religiously every single Monday and every single Tuesday. Now, I am a strict believer in not having meetings for the sake of meetings. So the other thing that I was already kind of counterpointing myself is, while I don't like the way it reads, where it says at least twice monthly, I don't necessarily have a suggestion for how to word it, because there are holidays, there are other exceptions where if you were to say every week, it's not practicable. And so I don't know how to word it, but twice monthly, it just concerns me. And like I said, we as a commission experienced the downside of this a month ago or 2 months ago. And I've heard from other people that they've had the same experience with getting things scheduled because they're only scheduling hearings every other week. And
So
so that,
why don't you add then, shall meet in open session regularly twice monthly, comma, not less than 26 times a year. I mean, that you mandate that they meet 26. So that mitigates the holiday thing. They can't say, oh, we had a holiday. They have to still have a meeting at some point. So I guess twice monthly is 24, not 26. No less than this amount, so that they can't say, well, we're skipping the month of June because it falls in holiday weeks
yeah.
or July.
That starts to get at it. And
Yeah.
maybe we don't need to go here. Maybe we just need to trust that we have good people and we get out of their way.
Yeah.
All right.
They could meet 4 days in a row. They could meet on a 30th, 31st, and a 1st and a 2nd and cover 2 months.
What was interesting to me is that they're now calling their Monday work sessions a hearing. We never even considered that a meeting. We just used to think we meet on Tuesdays, and being there all day on Monday to go through our agenda and get prepared was part of our work.
Mhm.
I will drop my concern and go with the flow on this and just keep it as is.
Okay, Dick?
Well, I was just thinking about the things Kevin was saying, and my first thought was, well, maybe we could change it to shall meet 3 times, but maybe we want to change open session. Work sessions are open, but they are not decision-making sessions. So if they're counting Mondays as a meeting, I think that's disingenuous because they can't take any action. So it's not really a business meeting, it's a work session.
All 3 of them told us when I raised this question, or at least told me, I can't remember if it was in our public sessions or if it was in conversations, but when I raised the point of, oh my gosh, you're only meeting every other week. And they said, well, we meet Mondays now too. And I was like, we did that 15 years ago too. That's nothing new.
But those are work sessions. They don't, they don't
Which are
take
really,
actions.
which are really important.
Yes,
Can I say something?
Yeah, David, please.
Well, I don't have the ability to raise I don't think I see how to raise a hand. So I think that twice a month is all we should require of them, but we could add something else that would say at least twice a month for consideration of the ongoing business of the county and additional meetings as required because of something. For example, the what do you call them? The rental unit issue. That popped up all of a sudden. And they did have meetings and they extended the time for public comment. They were responsive. And that's what you can expect them to do, I think, as serious commissioners with a commitment to the community. They're going to hold additional meetings as needed. And then Dick, is your comment about Monday meetings. The Monday meetings do have public comment period. And don't forget, they don't make decisions on if on things that come up just out of the blue at public meetings. Those are excuse me, as a result of public comment. So people do have ability to come and listen and also to make comment. But
yes, but they can't make any decisions in those sessions.
Well,
so they're not a session where you can bring scheduled business and get a decision from them.
Well,
Okay.
you get on the agenda for the twice monthly meetings. That's how you get it done. But the other thing I would ask, how do we put in here the provision for virtual meetings? What do we mean if somebody asks at least twice monthly? Does that mean in person or could it be exclusively virtual? What does it mean? And should we make it clear how that plays into our deliberation?
And that was handled by the governor in the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Tony?
I'm okay if Kevin is happy with the way it is. I'm okay with us moving forward and not changing anything for right now. I think we're on the verge of getting to micromanagement of what the council is going to be doing, and I cringe when that starts happening. But I'm okay with it moving forward unless everybody else wants to change it.
Let's move forward.
Okay, so we should drop the subject without any action is what we're agreeing to do. Okay.
All right. Thank you. 2.42, Olivia, please.
Interactions with county employees.
Okay.
So
may I introduce this, David?
oh yeah,
yes,
no,
please.
well, sure.
In this particular section, I thought that we've already established that the county council is in charge of the county manager. We've already established that the county council has executive powers if they wish to do that. We also established that the county manager is really in charge of the subordinate parts of the government that are under his or her direct supervision. It seemed to me that this whole paragraph was really going into places where we don't need to really go into places. So the verbiage that I added is probably not grammatically correct, or maybe could be condensed or reduced. But the idea here is the county council's interaction with the employees of the county that are not under their direct supervision should be through the county manager. And to me, that's a principle that a lot of organizations deal with, a lot of governments deal with. I just don't want us to have a county council that can walk into the permit department and say, Judy, can you make sure that my constituent, my neighbor gets the permit, or something like that? I mean, to me, that I lose sleep when I can think that this could happen. That's why I'm thinking that we should probably modify that section and replace it with the county council deals with the employees through the county manager that are under his or her supervision.
Okay. Dick?
Yeah, I disagree, Tony. I think that paragraph is really critical for a couple of reasons. One is it talks about the way they are expected to behave. And the other one, to me, is absolutely essential. And that is that it makes clear you don't get to direct an employee to do anything unless two of you have decided, a majority of the council. And the council and the commission before it has a long and inglorious history of individual commissioners messing in departments and trying to give direction and pressuring people to do things. And it's really important that they understand that if you don't get two of you to agree to do this in a public session, you can't do it.
Okay, Jane and then Tony.
Yeah, I 150% support what Dick is saying. I would not vote in favor of any changes to this paragraph whatsoever. And and speaking from sort of the Justice and Equity Committee position, where we feel strongly that some very fundamental principles of justice and equity are appropriate, being webbed throughout certain sections and clauses of the charter, this would be one of them. And the language, as far as I'm concerned, in this section is absolutely critical, and I do not support any revisions to it. Thank you.
Okay, Tony and then David.
I hear you both, Dave. I mean, Dick and Jane. I appreciate your input, but I think based on what I just heard from both of you, the modification I'm recommending actually strengthens this particular relationship. Because I don't think, even by a vote of 2-1, I don't think the county council should come to any particular department and direct that department personnel to do anything. Because I think the manager's responsibility should be the one that says, you know what, manager, please advise. Again, with a vote of 2-1, they can tell the manager to say, advise a certain department employee to do what they need to do. But I think from a governance point of view, and this is our committee, it's a governance point of view, do you actually want with a vote of 2-1 to circumvent what the county manager's powers are and what his or her responsibilities are? I don't think you want to go there. I think the proposal that I'm recommending strengthens the separation of responsibility and makes sure that the county council doesn't abuse their power, and it makes sure that the county manager is the frontline person that can deal with these issues.
Okay, thank you. Okay, David, Olivia, Kevin, and then Dick.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that there is a misunderstanding of what section 2.42 is about. It seems, Tony, that you interpret this as dealing not only with personnel matters, but also with just the ongoing management of the county manager by the county council.
No, that's not my assumption, David. That's not my assumption.
Okay. Well, okay, so my interpretation of 2.42 is this only has to do with a personnel manager. It has nothing to do with anything else. And that the issues regarding delegation of power, who has what authority, how you delegate the authority, that was the subject of section 2.31, executive powers and duties. So I think trying to change this to deal with the ongoing relationship, the management or simplification or clarification of the ongoing relationship of the county council with the manager with regard to other issues should not even be in here. This is only about personnel issues. And it seems with the proposed wordings that you have, Tony, that it loses that focus. It seems to lose that focus. It doesn't focus on the personnel matters that are in the current wording. And particularly, it takes out this exhibit ethical and respectful behavior. I mean, to me, that removing that, the optics of that would really be bad. I mean, I guess you'd point people to the other provision from the Justice and Equity Group that would clarify, no, we're not abandoning that. But I think this section should be left the way it is because it deals with the personnel issues, ethical behavior, and it'll get confusing by the wording that takes out that kind of focus.
Great. Olivia?
Thank you. I also agree that we should not strike any of that and keep it, but I think that we could find a way to either incorporate it in section 2.402 or within what Jane just suggested in the chat. That's what I was going to bring up, is in section 4.1 of the charter.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, okay, so Tony, I really appreciate what you're saying here. I actually think that the existing language touches upon this. I do have two, well, one edit, one possible edit. The edit is that I think that we need to, everywhere it says employ, add, employ, or appointed volunteer, recognizing that the county council members cannot on their own influence our appointed commissions or committees, which has happened numerous times. I will also say that I'm very familiar with this section, and I know exactly why it was written, and I know exactly why it was written the way it was written, which is exactly what Dick just said. We have a long history, and particularly with one past county commissioner and two past county council members, where they would literally go into, for instance, the planning department and threaten people because their friend wasn't getting a dock permit, was one of the scenarios that was very commonly known. Well, not commonly known, but was known. And that had to stop. And so in the writing of the charter, and this language, I believe, was actually in the original charter too, where it was a 6-person council, but was strengthened when we gave council back more authority and made them full-time again. And so I think that we need this language. I would strongly urge us to, and I would put a motion on the table when folks are ready to add language that everywhere it says employ, that we say employ or county employee or appointed volunteer, recognizing that piece. And then the thing I'm trying to work in my head is trying to get at something that Tony's, I believe, trying to do here, which is I would keep the existing language, but maybe you could add something that says a majority, because not all, but a majority of the county councils, I wouldn't say connection, I would say interactions with county employees should be, and it can't be a shall on this because there are circumstances where it wouldn't be the case, but you could say the county, majority of the county council's interactions with employees and appointed volunteers should be through the county manager when appropriate. So it starts to touch on what Tony's saying with the county manager, but it keeps that other language in there.
Okay, Dick, and then Janet.
Yeah, two things, and this is not neither of these is my main point. I disagree with David about this being a personnel section because the language says no council member shall direct or discipline. Direct doesn't mean personnel issues. Direct means the kind of thing Kevin was just talking about and the kind of thing I experienced personally in both my stints in county government. The second thing is I agree with what Kevin just suggested, that we ought to put the appointed people in there as well, because they shouldn't be doing that to them. And I'm fine with the other suggestion about putting in the should language. But the main point I wanted to make, and the reason I disagree with you, Tony, is the council is elected. The manager is not. The council delegates authority to the manager, and inherent in the ability to delegate authority is the ability to withdraw it. So if the council wants to do that, a majority of 2 in open session can decide to do that, and that's their right. And I don't think we ought to be messing with that.
Janet?
I almost forgot what I was going to say. I think we can move on, but the only thing I was going to say, Tony, is I'm just looking at your language versus the other language, and I so appreciate what you've done here. But when you say the county council's sole connection to the operations of the district is through the county manager, there are going to be times where a county council person is going to want to talk to Mylene about a budget issue. And in the way this is worded now, that county council person can't go to Mylene's office and say, hey, I have a question about, something you presented. So it just, in a weird way, it is almost too restrictive in how the operation of the county council needs to operate, just in terms of information gathering.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Janet. Let me just kind of clarify. This is only for the employees that are under the supervision of the county manager. The county elected positions are obviously they're autonomous. The county council can talk to anybody they wish they want to talk to. So I agree with your point. If it were the auditor or the treasurer or so on, if they stay as elected, but this really more to the kind of the frontline and backroom employees of the county that are under the supervision of the county manager directly.
so I just want to see if we can
Yeah,
wrap this
yeah.
up. It sounds like there's not a lot of support for your well-worded new paragraph. And I don't know if Kevin, you wanted to make a motion that, we change the current wording to have volunteers or appointed volunteers added to the existing language. Sorry.
Kevin, did you have something?
Yeah, I just put it in chat, sentence that starts to get at what Tony's talking about. But I don't know if it's worded right, but something like that. So tell you what, I would move that for section 2.42, everywhere it says employ, we add employ and appointed volunteers. And then add a final sentence to the paragraph that says a majority of the county, and this is what I just put in the chat, a majority of the county council's interactions with county employees and appointed volunteers, it should be appointed volunteers, should be through the county manager when applicable.
Why would you add when applicable? What does that do?
Okay.
That seems.
Yeah,
that seems-
actually, and it's because it says should and not shall, it's fine as is. Yeah, you don't have to put applicable. That's duplicative.
I would take it out because it seems to really weaken it.
Just read what I put in chat. That would be the final sentence. And then, so my motion is everywhere in section 2.42 where it says county employees, it will say county employees or appointed volunteers. And then we will add a final sentence to the end of the paragraphs that says a majority of the county council's interactions with county employees and appointed volunteers should be through the county manager.
Second.
Second, okay.
I have a question.
Well, I have a question first. Sorry, David.
Go ahead. No, go. I can't see
There
everybody.
was
Go ahead.
there was a second, so,
Yeah, Dick.
Seconded.
okay.
Yeah. I have problems with the word majority. What does majority mean? How do you define that? How does the council define that?
So that,
I don't understand what that means, to be honest, and I'm not sure how that would direct the county council in any regard that's particularly useful.
I think 2 out of 3, right?
no.
No. It's talking about their interactions, not a vote. And I think because it says should, it's fine, Jane.
Kevin, it's your motion. Kevin, please.
Yeah, so legally, and in both political but also legislative terms, but legal terms, when you're writing something like this, there's a big difference between should and shall. And
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I understand.
I'm trying to get to your point on majority there. So I'm very deliberately saying should. And what this does is this gives a strong suggestion to the county council that they need to be very careful when they're having interactions with individual employees, or if a county council member shows up at the Deer Harbor Planning Review Committee, they need to be very clear that they're a sole council member and they have zero authority as an individual, and only the county council has authority. And so what this is saying is, yes, you can have interactions, but for the most part, you need to be going through the county manager. And so this is just a strong suggestion of that. I don't think we should say shall or be too prescriptive here, because there are circumstances where an individual county council member is going to want to have interactions and have conversations. It's just that they wouldn't want to, back to the previous language in section 2.42, start to dictate actions or section or direction.
Mr. Chair, if I can just respond to that for a moment. Because
Yes.
I completely understand what you're talking about, and I don't take issue with that at all. What I have a problem with, though, is the way that is worded, a majority of the county council's interactions. And so the definition of what is not a majority, what kinds of interactions are exceptional, is where I would not feel clear. And so I do not have suggested alternative language, but I think that it would be appropriate perhaps to get, some legal language opinion on that. But I understand, I very well understand what you're saying. And I appreciate, the purpose of that. I'm just saying, I don't feel it's very clear.
Okay, there's
Mr. Chair?
yes, Kevin.
I guess the way I read it, Jane, so Jane, thank you. I really understand why you're saying that. And so if you say, if it just said the county council's interactions with county employees and appointed volunteers should be through the county manager, that would be more prescriptive and clearer. I guess what I'm trying to do is the kind of a little bit of a reversal on that, which is to recognize, and I can't think of a specific situation, but I imagine there could be situations where an individual county council member wants to, let me look at that above language again. It says direct. So no individual county council member shall direct or discipline. So direct is what I'm thinking of. So they wouldn't give direction to a county employee or appointed volunteer. I'm actually thinking of an additional edit now, sorry.
How about, hey, let me make a proposal.
Dick, yeah.
Let me make a proposal.
Go ahead, please.
Not yet.
Are you
How
still
about-
in your
how-
meeting?
David,
Are
can you,
you still in your
Dave-
meeting?
David, can you mute?
Thank you.
There we go.
How about prefacing the sentence by saying as a general rule?
That's
Or
what I was, so
under
what I was,
normal-
in the course of
under-
county, in the course of,
Hey, can I finish?
Yeah,
Okay.
Dick
As a-
first and then Janet, please.
As a general rule, or under most circumstances, and then the rest of Kevin's sentence.
so what I was writing in chat was, in the course of county operations, county council's interactions with county employees and appointed volunteers should be through the county manager. However, in any interaction with county employees, and then you just go through the rest of whatever the 2.42 says.
So you're saying that would be the opening sentence, Janet?
Yes. In the course of
don't-
county operations, county council's interactions with county employees and appointed volunteers should be through the county manager. However,
Okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say, however, in those cases, when there is interaction between county employees and county council should be respectful behavior, whatever the rest of it says.
All right.
I don't
Tony,
agree with,
please.
oh, sorry.
Tony, please.
I agree with that language. I think it will at least bring note that the county manager is really the intermediary between the council and the employees in a lot of different situations. But if the county council wishes to do something differently, they can do so with a vote in the county council. I get that. So I'm agreeable with this change between what Janet said and what Kevin also proposed. So. Now, the
Okay,
trick is to work the language.
okay, Dick?
I don't agree with it because I think it diminishes the impact of the first paragraph. And I would much prefer for it to come afterwards as the second paragraph and separate.
Okay.
Dave?
Yes, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Janet, I appreciate what you're saying. I tend to agree with Dick that I think have it being a follow up to it as opposed to an introduction to the first paragraph makes more sense with the way I'm thinking. The other thing I want to put out there is the other edit that now I'm thinking we just need to add is it needs to say everywhere it says employ, it should say employ, comma, appointed volunteer, comma, or not a comma, employ, comma, appointed volunteer, or department or committee, volunteer committee, so that it clarifies, and again, we have to be prescriptive, it clarifies that we're not just talking about dealing with an individual member of a volunteer committee, but they can't give direction to the committee as a whole either. So sorry that gets wordy, but I do think that that would be a valuable addition.
Can we just give the gist of this to Randy and let him wordsmith it in a legal way?
That's what we're doing. He's gonna wordsmith this anyway. So
How about in the interest of moving forward, Kevin, are you willing to rewrite it and send it to everybody via email, the team's email, and we all agree to look at it before the next meeting?
yes, I'm willing to do that. I unfortunately have not been able to find the email that this came in. So was that an email from Tony?
No, it was the agenda from today from Dave as well, and there were a bunch of attachments, and these were all the attachments.
Okay.
Attached to today's email. Yeah.
Yeah. May I recommend that we can move forward if this is going to be Kevin's assignment? Can we move forward to the next one?
Yeah, it is 8 o'clock. Or how do we feel about going for another half hour?
How about if we go at least till we finish Tony's stuff?
Yeah, so we can move on next week.
How
Okay.
many more of
That-
Tony's? Are there just two more or?
No,
one
there's
more?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 more.
I-
So
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to stay that long.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Same.
I've been up since 5:30 this morning for work. I cannot stay that
Oh,
long.
Jane, you're such a lightweight. Really?
Yeah,
Just
no, I'm sorry.
5:30.
And I had my COVID shot 2 days ago, and I'm feeling
Oh,
crappy.
ugh.
So I apologize, but I just can't stay that long.
I understand. I'm sorry, Jane, but I understand. I just, yeah,
can we do a half hour?
Well, can
2.7.
we,
Can I ask a question? I only have two more. Could you tell us what, I've got, Tony, section 2.70 resolutions, and then I have 4.41 duties and responsibilities.
yeah, that's
That's what I have.
I have
that's all I
4.
have.
I'm sorry, but I have 4.2, 4.4, and 4.41.
4.2, didn't they not?
Well, 4.2, 4.4. Oh, I'm missing those. We're gonna
Yeah,
have to,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to meet again.
Yeah.
4.41, you said? Okay.
Okay, so the question on the table, so there's a motion on the table. So I'm going to withdraw my motion. And Dick, will you withdraw your second?
I will.
Okay, and so I will put a motion on the table that says that, well, we don't even need a motion. What I will do though is I just want to understand the direction is what we've been discussing. Nobody disagrees with that. So I'm going to take that. I will write it up. I'll send it out to you guys very shortly as a suggestion, and then we can consider that at the next meeting. What I'm hearing from people is at least 2 people do not have the ability to go to 8:30. We're already at 8:05. Could we say that we're going to go to 8:10 and just try and finish one more and then we call it?
How about most of us, or I think all of us, only have 2 more for some reason. We have 2.70 and 4.41. Can we just try to get through those 2 and then we will have finished the list that Dave sent out?
Awesome. I'm good with that if others are.
4 more to do. Should we go to,
Did you last that long, Jane?
Yeah, I can hang in for 2
Yeah.
more, but sure as heck not 4. I'm sorry.
Okay,
so should we do 2.41?
No, we should go to 2.7.
no,
2.7?
2.70.
2.70, okay. Tony, 2.70, and Olivia, can you put that on the screen, please?
And this is kind of a little bit important because a couple of meetings back, I kind of let me just give you a little preamble. A couple of meetings back, I kind of forgot which section of the charter that actually says departments that are under their immediate supervision, and we talked about listing those departments. Did we ever do that in somewhere else? Or
I
did
think
we
we're,
not?
Thought we chose not to.
Yeah.
Okay, you chose not to. Okay. I mean, in that sense, that then A, B, and C are probably not necessary. But if you all think that it should stay there, I'm okay with it. But it seems like there's a lot of language that is not necessary. If we already agree that 2.71 or 2.7 subsection 1 is enough, then why do we need section items A, B, and C? But again, this is more of a cleanup thing as opposed to anything else. So that's my point on this particular item.
did you copy and paste this from the charter?
Yes. Why is it
I would,
different?
no, I would just like to fix it should be ITS, not IT''S.
I did not type it. I copied and pasted.
Okay. Someone should fix the grammar.
Maybe that's the amendment.
Dick, please.
Oh, I forgot to take my hand down, but I will say, I'm
Okay.
sorry, Tony, I'm going to disagree with you again. I think those things should stay again because they are within the authority of the council who is elected and the manager is not. And by resolution, they delegated a whole bunch of authority to the manager, which they have the ability to do. So I think we need to let them be able to do that.
Jane, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Jane, please.
Yeah, I just agree with Dick that those points A, B, and C should remain.
Mhm.
To add
You
further.
just agree.
I
Okay.
agree with Dick Grout far too much. It's really frustrating. I want to disagree with him.
Okay, I thought you said
Do-
disagree. and I was-
Do you disagree with me on the grammar issue though? I just want to know.
Totally. Are you kidding me? I'm with you on every single grammar issue you raise. Absolutely.
I didn't write that.
Okay. Is there any,
Olivia has her hand up.
I have a,
Kevin and then David?
Olivia has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Olivia?
go Olivia first.
Yeah, Olivia.
Well, everybody, this is a lesson in making sure you're looking at the right version of the charter. This is the one that Randy Gaylord told us to use, which has the Fifth Amendment adopted by the voters November 2019. And if you flip to 2.7 under resolutions, the wording is completely different. And we would definitely not want to remove any of the A, B, C, or parentheses 2. So this version is the one that if you Google, this is what pops up on Google, but is not the one that Randy Gaylord told us to use. So I would vote absolutely no that we not do
Change it.
anything because it's not the right version.
Oh, my God, you're right. You're right.
So
Olivia-
if you
Olivia,
read,
you're such a killjoy.
Can I go now?
Okay. Who would, somebody else?
let me just push up my glasses a little bit. So.
Okay. So,
All right, that's fine.
So the section 2.7 resolutions for 1, it says the county council may pass a resolution to semicolon. A, organize and administer the departments under their supervision. B, make declarations of policy that do not have the force of law. C, request information from any other agency of the county government. And then 2, the county council in passing resolution need not comply with the procedural requirements for the introduction, consideration, and adoption of ordinances.
I think we just move on.
Hang
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Mhm.
No, you guys-
well, let's drop subject without taking
Oh.
action.
no, hang on. Excuse me.
Kevin,
So there is state statute on what a resolution is, and our charter is out of whack with that. And the other thing is that this doesn't define, you can do a resolution to celebrate somebody's birthday. That's not in here. And so I'm not suggesting we deal with this tonight, but I do think we need to revisit this. So I just emailed a friend of mine who is the chief counsel for the state legislature to ask her to send me the definition of resolutions under state code. And I think that's what we should be taking a look at first. So I will, when I hear back from her, share her response with you guys. And I would say we table this for now, but I do think we need to go back and visit it because at the very least, this is not an exhaustive definition of resolutions. Now, what I was going to say before I realized we weren't even looking at the right draft is I don't think we need a section 2.7. Resolutions are resolutions under the law. There are resolutions and ordinances. They're both defined. I don't know why we need to try and redefine it in the charter. So I think what I'm going to recommend at a future meeting is we delete this entire section, but I don't have the information to make that motion now.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, so
Somebody
for
got
the
too
minute,
excited with this.
for the minutes, Kevin's going to investigate what's covered under law or not covered under law. And then he's going to come back to us and suggest either amendment or deleting this completely.
Yeah, and I'm also going to circle back with Randy and see if there's a reason for this the way it is. But at the very least, like I said, this is not exhaustive. Resolutions are what you do to, you know, celebrate Martin Luther King Day or something, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, can we, what, can we do one more, please?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Can we go to 4.41?
Thank you, Olivia. You putting it up
Thank you.
there?
Yeah. In this particular section, I don't have a proposal to modify it other than to say, why is it there? Because we've established already that the county manager is a direct reports directly to the county council. The county council can basically tell that person what needs to be done and not need to be done. Why are there duties and responsibilities? Is that really necessary? Because we established that in 2013, the county council already told the county manager what his duties, his or her duties are going to be for the next few years. Is this something that is really necessary to be a part of a charter? Especially since we've already established that the county council can change any of this stuff in a resolution. Why is that necessary to have it in there?
Dave?
Yes, Kevin.
I think Tony's making a good point. I caught something else that I just want to raise before I forget, which is I don't think here or anywhere else in the charter we should say he or she. I think we should say they.
Okay.
Okay.
Just so gender neutrality throughout. So, but I do think that Tony's making a good point. I'm not sure if the first three sentences, though, on their own would have the strength that we need. So I'm not sure it's as clear as just deleting those, but I do understand what Tony's saying, which is we've already delineated that he or she or they work for the county council. The other thing is what's odd actually is by resolution, the county council has defined the manager's duties separate from the charter. And I do think that that is something that previous CRCs have considered being more prescriptive and decided to let the duties of the county manager be defined by the county council. So that's a bigger question for us, which is, do we want to define the county manager's duties more prescriptively in the charter, or do we want to give that authority to the elected officials?
Yeah.
That's the question this is getting at.
May I respond a bit quickly?
Yes,
Kind
Tony,
of
please.
kind of strengthen that argument a little bit more, is that in section 5 of the county manager's in the resolution that's instructing the county manager of what their duty is that the correct pronoun, their duty? I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah. Section 5 talks about what the duties are, to appoint and so on. And there are other sections, for example, section 6 in the resolution talks about that. So I think I would like to see this a little bit minimized, if not completely gone, but so anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
I would suggest that before the next meeting, we all need to look at this again and in light of other sections and see what we think, because I get the sense we're flying about half blind here.
Agreed.
Who
Well-
was that? Was that David? Or Tony?
David,
Okay.
David agreed with Dick.
Okay.
Dick, that's a good point because 4.4 talks about the county manager in general. But the big takeaway from 4.4 is that the county manager is the direct conduit to the county council in the budget process. And we heard by some presenters over the past few weeks that the county council doesn't have really a good handle on the budget process. So I would, if I were to strengthen the charter in that sense, I would make sure that the county council or the county manager is more responsible to the county council for the budget process, because it seemed to me by hearing some of the presentations that we heard that there's a disconnect. For example, if the auditor says, no, you can't have X, the county council doesn't hear about it till the last minute. So I think there's a disconnect in that particular process. So I would say 4.4, 4.41 need to be reevaluated to either strengthen it or eliminate some of it. It meaning both of them.
Mr. Chair, I have a suggestion.
Yes, Kevin, please.
I actually stealing Dick's idea. So Tony, I think you're making good points. I'm not prepared to move something or support a motion at this point because I just want to spend some more time thinking about it. But I think Tony's making some good points. I would like to table this and really stress that we all need to do our homework and read this and how it, more importantly, how it relates to other sections, and be prepared to finalize this next week.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Tony, is that okay with you? I don't mean to just table your idea. I just want to think about it more. I think you're making a really good point. I just want more time.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you, Kevin. I'm just saying that I think when I started this whole conversation some weeks ago, my thought was there are multiple sections that need to be revisited to clarify and clean up a lot of this language. And I think this is a good example of that. So I would agree to table it. Like I said to you earlier, I'm just trying to help clean up. I'm not really attached either way.
Totally.
I just want to make sure that we present a good product to the voters and that we will be proud of. That's all.
And
Right.
anybody
Jane.
who has suggestions could email them to us too.
Yeah. Jane.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what Randy's role is in helping us to do this kind of cleanup. Given that, a number of us haven't worked in county government, and while we may be conversant in governance issues, some of this detail, anyway, I see Kevin's hand up already, but I mean, we could be putting quite a bit of work into making changes and all the rest of it. And I just, I'm wondering to what extent asking, Randy or his colleague to take a look in terms of where there is duplication in the charter or other things that may need, where there needs to be congruence and fluidity between sections that he could highlight that for us rather than, anyway, I'm sorry. Maybe it's a bandwidth issue for me right now, but I just wanted to put that on the table.
Kevin, then Dick.
Yeah, Jane, I think you make a really good point. And this, and frankly, the other section where I'm getting some outside advice too on just what the state statute says too on resolutions. Those are areas where we could easily, I mean, if our chair here, if Dave wants to, or Tony, since you've spent time looking at this, kind of these suggestions that you have, if somebody wanted to articulate the questions that came up tonight and send those to Randy, I would be very supportive of that, because you are correct, Jane. There may be something that all of us are missing that justifies why this is written exactly the way it is. And we don't want to spend an entire hour going back and forth coming up with our suggested language only to have Randy say, that doesn't work because of something we're not thinking about.
Exactly. Thank you, Kevin. I just feel like there's a lot of other things I'm feeling preoccupied with. That's precisely my point. And I kind of made that point at the beginning of the meeting, but thank you.
Thank you.
Was that your
Dick,
dig at us?
Tony.
Was that your dig at us that we should have listened to you earlier?
And I'll be quick. I think on the other hand, we need to be careful. We can't and shouldn't be putting questions to Randy that are essentially, what do you think we should do about this? We need to have decided that there's something we think is a problem and put a specific question to him. And then I have one more point before we leave.
Sorry, Dick,
And-
Dick, before you make your last point, the final point, I just wanted to respond to that and say, I agree. I agree. I'm just saying, if we're saying that we see duplication, if we're saying that we see sections that are, that articulate things at cross purposes, then let's put that question to him and say, are there some disconnects here or some overlaps? That's all I'm suggesting, is that we ask him to look at it through that specific lens.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Let's see, Tony and Kevin.
Dick had a second point.
Dick,
I'm
Dick
sorry,
had a
Dick?
second point. Dick had a
sorry.
second point.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
We can stop screen share.
Dick, you're muted there.
Still muted.
Oh. Lord.
Can we,
Dick, you look so stressed.
I know, it's all good. Can we go to Tony and then we'll get Dick in a second, please? Let's go to Tony.
Okay. I just want you to know that when the reason I got this whole thing got started in my head is because I saw the incongruity of a lot of the stuff. But when I interviewed Mike Thomas, the county manager, and we talked about this, he kind of verified my concern. And that's one reason why the 2013 resolution came about, is because there were incongruities in the charter. And the council at the time, in their kind of wisdom, they decided that, okay, fine, we see there are problems. Let's make it right in the resolution 10-2013 that clarified all this stuff. So that's really, to me, became the kind of the idea that we should probably clean this stuff up. But that's, yeah.
Thank you. Dick, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I was just gonna say, caution Jane that she should be careful because she agreed with me again. But I want to make, before we leave, I want to raise an important question, and that is what I believe has been the warmest day of the year so far. Kevin appears to be wearing the warmest clothing to a meeting he has ever worn before, and I just think he owes us an explanation.
I was down on the dock up to my waist in the Puget Sound water until moments before this call, and I'm still wearing my board shorts.
Whew.
I'm still wet.
Okay, David.
I
Oh, do you have your hand?
Yeah.
And then
Go ahead. I can go after David.
Okay. David.
I move we adjourn. We're well over the 10 minutes. We're
Can I-
spinning our wheels, and I
No.
don't think we have anything yet to present to Randy. I think we're way ahead of ourselves in thinking we have something to go to Randy with. at this
Can
time.
we, next week, can we limit this conversation though? Because this is, going on. I think we started 1 week. Now it's almost a third time we're coming back to these things.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
while they're important, I would love to have a time limit on how much time we're all going to give our opinions about this.
Is there a second to my motion?
No, I still have a point.
Okay. Kevin?
So there was no second, so the motion fails. Okay.
Uh-huh. No, sorry.
David, in your defense, I will move that we adjourn after I make this point. Okay?
And you expect me to support that? Oh, okay. After you speak. Well, I'll have one more thing to say after.
The back and
that
forth
motion.
between Jane and Dick a moment ago was really important. And I would not suggest that we randomly send stuff to Randy and say, what do you think? What is very clear across the board on every single issue we're dealing with is that we need to articulate what we want. You don't go to Randy and say, what should we do? We go to Randy and say, this is what we want to do. How do we do it? And
But
so with these changes, that's the section 2. Now, the question on some of these is the language the way it is for a certain reason? is a separate question I believe we should also be asking, which is we don't want to be making changes where we're not educated on why it's written the way it is.
I would just say, here's our intention, like what you wanted to do on that one thing. Here's our intent. Make it legally feasible. And if there's some reason it's in here and we shouldn't change it, just let us know.
Tell us. Yeah.
Okay, Tony, and then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
And Jane gets to go. She gets to go. Bye.
I'm sorry.
Bye, Jane.
Jane, thank you for coming.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye,
for coming,
Jane.
Good night. Tony, your final comment? You're muted though.
You're muted.
Thank you. That's the phrase of 2021. Completely unrelated, and I know Kevin and Janet would appreciate this. I ran into somebody that I really love as a person. Kim Reykdal, Chris Reykdal's wife, is on the island. Chris Reykdal is the superintendent of public instruction for Washington State. Great guy. And his wife was on my committee in the Washington School Directors Association, and I was at the grocery store, and there she is. So just my last word for the day.
Cool.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Kevin is speechless.
Those school
I made
directors.
Kevin speechless.
Yeah, they're school directors.
I move we adjourn.
Yes, second.
Okay, there
Okay,
we go.
I have a comment.
Not-
I
Okay.
don't
There's
want
a
to
motion,
adjourn.
a
I want to
second.
continue talking.
Okay,
I vote no.
okay. Go adjourn. How's Oakland?
Better than here.
Wait, do you actually have a point or can we go?
We can go.
No, my
Oh.
point is that Kevin didn't support my motion. That's
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
End the recording, Dave.
Okay.